Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Saba Show. And today we've got the round 12 predictions. First week of the bye rounds, so a few teams are getting a well-earned break, but for others, they've just got to keep it going, an extra week or 2 weeks. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. We had some cracking fixtures last week, and we've got some really good ones this week. It starts on Friday night. It is the Bulldogs taking on Geelong. The Bulldogs absolutely demolished West Coast, so it would have been an absolute procession for them. And for Geelong, well, it wasn't 100% convincing, but they got the job done against the Crows at home. Tom Stewart is an absolute gun in the back line. That guy, I reckon, had about 35 touches and somewhere near 15 marks in the back line, so an absolute rock for them. The Bulldogs, that English in last week can't be understated. Mind you, it was against a team that basically allows you to, run your training drills in real games. But nonetheless, that English in is huge. And Bailey Smith is coming back this week. So just when you thought it couldn't get any tougher for Geelong, that's happened. Look, Bulldogs, I'm going to back in here. I don't know when to tip them and when to not tip them. This is going to be a big challenge for the Bulldogs. I think for both sides it'll be a big challenge. Really is a gauge of where they are at with regards to surrounding competition. But I think, the Bulldogs have had some really good performances at Marvel this year. They beat Collingwood, who are in form. They beat Sydney as well. Mind you, that was a bit dodgy as well, but they got the job done there. And I think Geelong is going to be another victim of the Bulldogs performing well at home. So I think the Bulldogs will get up. Second game of the round, it is the Crows and the Eagles. And we just mentioned the Eagles, who, Sherlock Holmes couldn't decipher the mystery as to why West Coast are this garbage. The Crows are at home, performed all right against the Cats last week. We were in the contest for much of the game, however, just didn't have enough firepower. And, when Geelong have some players that are, known to have moments of brilliance, it's really tough to stop them. So the Crows just didn't have enough in the shed to get the job done. The Eagles, as I said, I don't understand why they're this shit. They have gotten players back. Mind you, they've still got a lengthy injury list, but at the same time, it doesn't justify a 100-point loss at home. Even if you tried to mount a reason as to why the Eagles could win this game, because mind you, I do think there's a little window of opportunity for them, given the Crows aren't the most experienced team, and they are prone to, some major flaws. But even if you tried to create a reason as to why they could win this game, it still wouldn't be enough, because they've just been that abysmal. So the Crows will get up here. Who knows how big the margin's going to be. 4:35 game, and I underestimated the Suns as well. We got to give them a bit of credit. They are above 100% with regards to percentage. They are 5-6 on the year. They sit in 12th place, and mind you, that's probably not even their best finish, but it really feels like they're playing their best footy in their short history. North Melbourne, yeah, man, they were all right against St Kilda to start things off, but obviously the lead is going to be much tighter at the beginning of a game than it is at the end of the game. And it really turned out that way. 53-point loss for them last week. And they're just boring. They really are boring. You see a North Melbourne game, you see the scoreline, and you're just like, well, I know what the result's going to be here. It's much like a West Coast game. The Suns, I was actually really surprised with how they performed. We did say that the Suns are probably a little bit more accustomed to conditions than the Hawks would have been, given the Suns have made more trips up there recently. But they just taught the Hawks a lesson. Won by 10 goals, easy as you like. And they're actually returning to the ground at TIO and Darwin. And you can imagine, even though it's an early time slot, it's going to have that same greasy-like conditions. So yeah, I think the Suns will just cope with this much better, as they showed last week. And they will pick up the win against North Melbourne, who have been very poor this season. At night, we've got Melbourne and Sydney. What a ripper clash. The D's, really surprising how they capitulated last week in what was their first loss in about 17 weeks, I do believe. And the Swannies, while they got a dub, mind you, it was via a bit of controversy that, look, I don't think you could blame the umpire for the decision that he made, although you could make a case against that. Swans, they didn't have a very good start to the game, but, were able to, just claw their way back into it. Richmond were troubling them early on in the contest. Once they went direct to Buddy Franklin, the rest was history, because he was just basically scoring every shot he had on goal from distance. So that was good to see by them. Very good resilience, as I said. They were winning the clearances, all that important stuff. The D's, I saw the scoreline at about 51-31 when they were up, and they conceded 63 of the last 66 points in the game, which is just unfathomable for a team of Melbourne's size. The successes they've had recently, it's just absolutely amazing how that's happened. Look, I'm going to tip Melbourne. I think they'll bounce back. They're a good football side. They're actually getting a lot of players back in. Missing Langdon, missing Salem. I think they're both fit. Petrarca was ill and probably played the worst game of his career. List goes on. But I think they'll bounce back here. The Swans did show that, they were very lucky to win the game, given they didn't really play a full 4 quarters. They played probably a good, quarter and a half, and that's what got them up. I think it was more Richmond going away from what they had done well, as opposed to Sydney playing better. I'll give them a little bit of credit, but at the same time, you're not going to get away with playing like they did the other night against a much better outfit in Melbourne. So Melbourne to win at home, no stress there. 2:10, and it is Hawthorn taking on Collingwood. Hawthorn were abysmal last week. It was sort of close at the start, but by halftime it looked like game over. And you could have given them a little bit of a chance going into the second half, given they had that comeback against Brisbane the other week. But in saying that, I was actually really surprised with the margin, the way in which they went out of this game. Just never really had a chance, never really coped with the conditions well. Tom Mitchell is playing a very different role as well recently. I'm not sure if that's the right decision. Not going to question it though, because it gave him a win the other week, but obviously it's a bit hit or miss given they lost. Collingwood, very big win last week against the Blues, my Blues. But look, Collingwood, I'll give him credit. I will give him a lot of credit for what they did. Mason Cox actually played a good game last week. Their midfield was strong, still side bottom. Has had some pretty iffy games. Obviously going downhill in his career. Not really going downhill, but, in the latter stages of his career. And he played a really good game last week. A crucial role in this game. Their backline held up well. Mind you, the Blues didn't have, their tools and whatnot, but they were just able to hold on. The Pies faithful were really getting vocal before the final siren went, and it would have been absolutely comedic if the Blues ended up getting up late in the game. However, they did get the 4 points, and that's all that really matters, doesn't it? So, look, this is a really tough one to pick. I think Collingwood, they're in better form at the moment. They've picked up some really good wins in the last couple of weeks. Fremantle and now Carlton, who are both, both teams sit in the top 5 of the league. So, that's no easy feat, and I think that the Pies will back it up again. However, Hawthorn, I don't know what they're going to give us. They change on a game-by-game basis, so don't be surprised if they somehow shock the Pies, but we're saying the Pies here based on recent form. Last game of the round, it's Fremantle taking on Brisbane, 5:20, final game. Both teams are on a high this week. Fremantle, seriously, I've got to give them a bit more credit now that they've knocked off the top side in Melbourne. I had Melbourne losing to Brisbane or Geelong later this season, but Fremantle got to it first. And, huge for the competition. I don't know if this opens up the flag tilt race, whatever, but Fremantle, they've got a good case now that they've knocked off the top side in the league that was scorching hot. Where did that, that scoring burst come from? I've got absolutely no idea. Home crowd, obviously wasn't there. They didn't have that advantage either to fuel them through it, but, they really surprised a lot of people with this win. Brisbane started extremely slow. They gave up 8 goals in the first quarter to GWS and luckily rescued that game, won by 14 points. So it wasn't as much of a turnaround as Freo's, but both teams are coming away with this same reward, that 4 points, that elusive 4 points. This is a really tough one to pick because I feel like it's a very condition-dependent tip. If it's raining, I would not be surprised if Brisbane get the win because I think there was a game a couple of years ago where Brisbane absolutely torched Fremantle in the rain, at Optus. I think they kicked 120 plus, which was just pretty absurd given the conditions. But If it's sunny, I can see Fremantle defending well and Brisbane not being able to pick up the win. In saying that though, I can't really use that as a basis because obviously Fremantle's team has improved. Their small forwards are much better. So that will obviously give them a bit of an advantage going into this game if it's raining. You've got Michael Frederick down there. You've got Lockie Schultz. Switkowski is still out, I do believe, or I may be wrong. But they've got quite a presence down there. Liam Henry as well. So that's if he's playing. But it's a really tough one to pick, this one. I'm going to say Fremantle on the back of that huge win against Melbourne last week. They have shown their flaws in wet weather, having lost to Gold Coast and the other team, which I just can't remember. So it was Collingwood, and also earlier in the year, it was St Kilda. So a few teams there that have, sort of exposed them a little bit. I don't think Brisbane are going to be that side. They are a very good football side, though, so I wouldn't be surprised if they get the W. I've been rambling on about this game for quite some time, but Fremantle, I think, only just. That's going to be it from me. I do hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the show. Weekly thing, you know the deal. Good luck with this week's tips. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.